The crystal ship gleamed like a giant diamond in the darkness of space. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge, his tall blue body covered in silver armor that reflected the lights from hundreds of control panels. His red eyes scanned the star charts floating in front of him. 12 star systems, 300 years of conquest. The Caltherian Empire was the strongest force in this part of the galaxy. Admiral, his second-in-command, spoke in their musical language. The fleet is ready to jump to the Sol system. Vextar smiled, showing his sharp white teeth. The Sol system was just another easy target. His scouts had reported that these humans barely had any space technology. They lived on one main planet called Earth, and had only small colonies on nearby worlds. It would be simple to crush them. How many ships do they have? Vextar asked. Perhaps 20 or 30 small vessels, Admiral. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest ship. Vextar laughed. His fleet had over 200 warships. Each one was 10 times bigger than anything the humans could build. The Caltherians had weapons that could turn planets into dust. They had shields that could stop any attack. They were perfect warriors. Begin the jump, Vextar ordered. We will show these humans the power of the Caltherian Empire. The space around the fleet twisted and bent. Reality folded like paper, and suddenly they were gone. Far away in the Sol system, Captain Hyunwoo Kim sat in his small office on Earth. He was reading reports from the outer colonies when his communication device started screaming with emergency signals. Captain Kim, the voice was full of panic. This is Colony Base 7. Unknown ships have appeared in our system. They're huge. The signal turned into static. Hyunwoo jumped up and ran to the command center. Lieutenant Commander Jin-Ho Lee was already there, his face pale as he watched the screens. What's happening? Hyunwoo asked. We're getting emergency signals from 3 colonies, Jin-Ho said. They all say the same thing. Giant alien ships just appeared. The ships are attacking everything they see. Hyunwoo felt his heart beating faster. Humanity had always known this day might come. They had prepared for it, but he never thought it would happen so soon. Get me Dr. So-Min Park, he ordered. Tell her it's time. Dr. So-Min Park was working late in her underground laboratory when the call came. She had been expecting it for months. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, starting up machines that hummed with power. Computer, begin final testing sequence, she said. Testing sequence initiated, the computer replied. All systems are working perfectly. So-Min smiled. The project was ready. Humanity's secret weapon was ready. The aliens would never expect what was coming. Back in space, Admiral Vextar's fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system. His red eyes studied the primitive planet called Earth. It was blue and green, covered in water and plants. Perfect for Caltherian colonies, Admiral. We are receiving a communication from the planet, his communications officer reported. Put it on the main screen, Vextar ordered. A human face appeared on the screen. The creature had pale skin and dark hair. Its eyes looked calm, which surprised Vextar. Most species begged for mercy when they saw the Caltherian fleet. This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the Terran Defense Force, the human said in perfect Caltherian language. You have entered our space without permission. Leave now or we will defend ourselves. The entire bridge went silent. Then Vextar started laughing. His officers joined in. The sound filled the bridge like music. Did this primitive creature just threaten us? Vextar asked his officers. They laughed even harder. Admiral, his weapons officer, reported. I'm detecting one human ship approaching our position. It's very small. Maybe 1/10 the size of our smallest escort vessel. One ship? Vextar could hardly believe it. They're sending one tiny ship against our entire fleet. He walked to the main viewing window and looked out at the approaching human vessel. It looked like a metal stick compared to his beautiful crystal ships. Its design was simple and ugly. It had no decorations or beauty at all. Open communications again, Vextar ordered. Captain Hyunwoo Kim's face appeared on the screen again. Human, Vextar said. I am Admiral Vextar of the Caltherian Empire. Your species will surrender immediately. We will allow some of you to live as slaves. Refuse and we will destroy your entire planet. The human captain's expression didn't change. We refuse. Then you have chosen death, Vextar said. Weapons officer, destroy one of their moons as a demonstration. Show them what happens to those who defy the Caltherian Empire. Yes, Admiral. The weapon charged with a sound like thunder. Energy gathered at the front of the flagship, glowing brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at. Then it fired. The beam of pure energy shot across space toward Earth's moon. It was powerful enough to crack a planet in half. Vextar had used it to destroy dozens of worlds. No species had ever survived it. But something impossible happened. The single human ship moved directly into the path of the energy beam. Vextar expected it to be vaporized instantly. Instead, the ship seemed to bend the space around itself. The deadly energy beam curved away from the ship like water flowing around a stone. What? Vextar gasped. How is that possible? Before anyone could answer, the human ship fired back. It wasn't a beam of energy or a missile. It was something that made space itself ripple like water. The ripple moved toward 3 Caltherian ships in the front line. When it hit them, they simply stopped existing. Not destroyed. Not blown apart. They were just gone, as if they had never been there at all. Admiral, his communications officer screamed. The ships just vanished. No debris, no energy signature, nothing. Vextar stared at the empty space where his ships had been. In 300 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be weak. All ships open fire, he ordered. Destroy that vessel! 100 crystal ships fired at once. The space between them and the human ship filled with deadly energy beams, missile swarms, and gravity weapons. The human ship moved through all of it like it wasn't there. It appeared in one place, then another, as if it existed in several locations at the same time. Each time it fired back, more Caltherian ships simply vanished. This is impossible, Vextar shouted. Nothing can do this. Nothing. But as he watched his mighty fleet disappear ship by ship, Admiral Vextar realized that everything he thought he knew about the universe was wrong. The humans weren't primitive. They were something far more dangerous. Captain Hyunwoo Kim watched the alien ships explode on his screen. His hands were steady on the controls, but inside his heart was beating fast. This was humanity's first real test against an alien empire, and everything depended on the next few minutes. Captain, his weapons officer called out. We've destroyed 47 enemy ships. They're pulling back. Don't let them escape, Hyunwoo ordered. We need to send a clear message. The TSF Indomitable moved through space like a ghost. The ship used Dr. So-min Park's new technology to fold space around itself. To the aliens, it looked like the human ship was everywhere at once. In reality, it was moving through dimensions that the aliens didn't even know existed. Admiral Vextar stood frozen on his bridge. More than half his fleet was gone. The beautiful crystal ships of the Caltherian Empire were being erased from existence by a single human vessel. Admiral, his navigator shouted. The human ship is behind us now. Vextar spun around. The ugly metal ship had appeared directly behind his flagship. How had it moved so fast? How had it passed through his shields without being detected? All power to rear shields, he ordered. Fire everything we have. The Eternal Dominion fired its main weapons at point-blank range. The energy beam was strong enough to destroy a city. It hit the human ship directly. Nothing happened. The human ship sat there like the massive energy beam was just warm sunlight. Then it fired a single shot. The shot passed through the Caltherian shields like they weren't there. It hit the flagship's main weapon system and turned it into empty space. No explosion, no fire. The weapon simply stopped existing. Shields down to 0, his engineer reported. Main weapons offline. How are they doing this? Before Vextar could answer, a communication signal came from the human ship. Admiral Vextar, Captain Hyunwoo Kim's voice filled the bridge. This is your final warning. Leave our space immediately or we will destroy every ship in your fleet. Vextar looked around his bridge. His officers were all staring at him, waiting for orders. They had never lost a battle before. The Caltherian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds. They were supposed to be invincible. How? Vextar asked. How is one small ship defeating our entire fleet? You've been thinking small, Admiral, the human captain replied. You see space as 3 dimensions. We see more. On Earth, Dr. So-min Park monitored the battle from her laboratory. The readings on her screens showed that the new technology was working perfectly. She had spent 5 years developing it, working in secret with the best scientists from around the world. The breakthrough had come when she realized that space and time weren't separate things. They were parts of the same thing, and if you knew how to bend one, you could control the other. The aliens with their crystal ships were still thinking like the universe was flat. Humans had learned to think in curves. Dr. Park, Lieutenant Commander Jin-Ho Lee's voice came through her communicator. The alien fleet is retreating. Captain Kim wants to know if we should follow them. So-min thought for a moment. Tell the captain to let some of them go. We want them to spread the word about what happened here. Back in space, Admiral Vextar made the hardest decision of his long military career. All ships retreat to the edge of the system. We need to report this to the Emperor. The surviving Caltherian ships pulled back, their crystal hulls no longer gleaming with confidence. They had lost more than half their numbers to a single human vessel. It was the worst defeat in the Empire's history. But as they retreated, the human ship followed them. Not attacking, just watching, making sure they knew they were being watched. Admiral, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different species in our territory. Word of our defeat is already spreading. Vextar closed his red eyes. The Caltherian Empire ruled through fear. If other species learned that the mighty Caltherian fleet could be defeated by primitives, everything would fall apart. Send a message to the Emperor, he ordered. Tell him we need every ship in the Empire. Tell him the humans are not what we thought they were. On the human ship, Captain Hyunwoo Kim studied the retreating alien fleet. His science officer, Commander Yoonji Choi, stood beside him looking at the readings from the battle. Captain, she said, our scans of the alien ships show something interesting. The technology is very advanced, but it's old. I don't think they've invented anything new in hundreds of years. What do you mean? Look at these designs, Yoonji pointed to her screen. Every ship uses the same basic systems. The same weapons. The same shields. It's like they stopped learning how to make new things, Hyunwoo nodded. That's their weakness, then. They've become too used to winning with the same old tricks. There's something else, Captain. I'm detecting communication signals from some of the planets in their territory. It sounds like other species are asking for help. Hyunwoo felt a cold chill. The aliens weren't just conquerors. They were slave owners. How many species were suffering under their rule right now? Set course for Earth, he ordered. We need to talk to Command about our next move. Dr. So-min Park was waiting for them when the Indomitable returned to Earth. She met Captain Hyunwoo Kim in the secure briefing room deep underground. The test was successful, she reported. The dimensional folding technology works better than we hoped. But we have a problem. What kind of problem? The energy cost. Each time we fold space, it uses enormous amounts of power. The Indomitable can only do it for short periods before the reactors need to cool down. Hyunwoo sat down heavily. How long before we can use it again? 6 hours minimum. Maybe 8 if we want to be safe. That was the problem with fighting an empire. They had hundreds of ships. Humanity had advanced technology, but they were still outnumbered by more than 1,000 to 1. There's something else, So-min continued. I've been studying the alien technology from the battle recordings. Their ships are powered by something I've never seen before. It's not nuclear fusion. It's not antimatter. It's something completely different. Can we use it? Maybe. But we'd need to capture one of their ships intact to study it properly. Captain Hyunwoo Kim looked out the small window at the blue earth above them. Somewhere out there, an alien empire was preparing for war. They would come back with more ships, more weapons, and they would be ready for humanity's dimensional technology, but they wouldn't be ready for everything. Dr. Park, he said, how long would it take to build more ships like the Indomitable? With the current technology? 2 months per ship if we work around the clock. Then we better get started, because this was just the beginning. Above them, the stars looked peaceful and quiet, but Hyunwoo knew that in the darkness between those stars, an empire that had ruled for 3 centuries was preparing to strike back. The next battle would decide whether humanity would remain free or become just another conquered species in the Caltherian Empire. The war for humanity's survival had begun. Emperor Zalthek sat on his crystal throne, his massive form casting shadows across the golden chamber. He was twice as tall as Admiral Vextar, with blue skin that seemed to glow from within. His 4 red eyes stared at the holographic report floating in front of him. Explain this to me again, the Emperor said, his voice like rolling thunder. Admiral Vextar knelt before the throne. His proud uniform was torn and dirty from the battle. Your Majesty, the humans possess technology we have never seen before. Their single ship destroyed over half our fleet. 1 ship. The Emperor's voice was deadly quiet. You lost 120 vessels to 1 primitive human ship. The ship could appear in multiple locations at the same time, Your Majesty. It passed through our shields like they were made of air. When it fired, our ship simply vanished. Emperor Zaltek stood up slowly. He walked to the massive window that looked out over his capital city. Millions of Caltherians lived in the crystal towers below. For 300 years they had lived in peace because the Empire's military was unbeatable. Intelligence Officer Rixtal, the Emperor called. A smaller Caltherian stepped forward. Her silver armor was covered in sensor equipment. Yes, Your Majesty. What do our spies tell us about these humans? Rixtal activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air. Cities, spaceports, and military bases. The humans call themselves the Terran Defense Force, she reported. They have approximately 50 ships, all much smaller than our vessels. But Your Majesty, there's something strange. Our deepest scans cannot penetrate their main research facilities. What does that mean? It means they're hiding something. Something that requires more advanced shielding than anything we've ever encountered. The Emperor walked back to his throne. In 3 centuries of conquest, the Caltherians had never met a species they couldn't defeat. They were the perfect warriors. Their crystal ships were the most beautiful and deadly in the galaxy. Send word to all sectors, the Emperor ordered. Recall every battle fleet. I want 1,000 ships ready for the assault on Earth. Your Majesty, Admiral Vextar said carefully, perhaps we should study their technology first. Learn how they— No. The Emperor's roar shook the crystal walls. The Caltherian Empire does not study the technology of primitives. We destroy them and take what we need from their dead worlds. But while the Emperor planned his massive attack, something else was happening across the Empire. The news of the defeat was spreading like fire through dry grass. On the planet Nexus Prime, the Nexari workers stopped mining crystal ore. These tall, thin beings had been slaves for 200 years. Now they whispered to each other about the humans who had made Caltherian ships disappear. Is it true? Asked Nexara, her large eyes glowing with hope. The news came from the Caltherian military itself, replied her friend Velthon. A single human ship destroyed an entire fleet. On the industrial world of Vorthan 7, the Vorthan engineers who built Caltherian ships heard the same news. These gray-skinned beings were forced to create the weapons used to conquer other worlds. But now they looked at each other with something they hadn't felt in generations: hope. Back in the Sol system, Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood in the briefing room on Earth. With him were the other ship captains of the Terran Defense Force. Captain Yoonji Choi commanded the TSF Liberator. Commander Min Seo-yoon led the diplomatic corps. The aliens will be back, Hyunwoo told the group, and they'll bring everything they have. Dr. So-min Park activated a holographic display showing the local star systems. We've been monitoring their communications. The Caltherian Empire controls 12 star systems with hundreds of different species. How many of those species joined willingly? Asked Captain Yoonji. According to our analysis, none of them. Every species in the Empire was conquered and enslaved. Commander Min Seo-yoon leaned forward. That gives us an opportunity. If we could contact these enslaved species, maybe they would help us fight. It's worth trying, Hyunwoo agreed. But first we need to survive the coming attack. Dr. So-min Park pulled up new schematics. I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we've built 3 more ships using the dimensional folding technology. The bad news is that we've detected massive energy buildups in the Caltherian systems. They're bringing at least 1,000 ships. The room went quiet. 4 human ships against 1,000 alien vessels. The numbers were impossible. There might be another way, So-min continued. I've been studying the recordings from our first battle. The Caltherian ships all use the same basic technology. If we could disrupt their power systems, we could disable entire fleets at once. How? By creating a dimensional shockwave. It would be like an earthquake in space itself. But there's a risk. We'd have to get very close to their ships to make it work. Captain Hyunwoo Kim looked around the room at the faces of his fellow officers. They were scared, but they were also determined. Humanity had always survived by being clever instead of strong. Do it, he decided. Prepare the dimensional shockwave. We'll show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Vextar prepared his new fleet. The Emperor had given him every ship in the Caltherian military. Crystal vessels filled space like a deadly constellation. But something was wrong. Reports were coming in from across the Empire. Slave revolts on 17 different worlds, production slowdowns in the crystal mines. Even some of the Caltherian officers were asking questions about the war. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving strange signals from the human system. It sounds like they're trying to communicate with our subject species. Block all communications, Vextar ordered, but he knew it was too late. The idea of resistance was already spreading. On Nexus Prime, Nexara heard a voice speaking in her own language through hidden communication equipment. "This is Commander Min Seo-yoon of the Terran Defense Force. We know you are enslaved by the Caltharians. We want to help you become free." Nexara looked around the crystal mine where she had worked her entire life. For the first time in decades, she smiled. Similar messages reached the Vorthon engineers, the Calaxian farmers, and dozens of other species across the Empire. The humans weren't just offering to fight the Caltharians. They were offering something the galaxy hadn't seen in 3 centuries. Hope. Dr. So-Min Park worked through the night in her laboratory, preparing the dimensional shockwave weapon. The mathematics were incredibly complex. One small mistake and the weapon could tear holes in space itself. "Computer, run final safety checks," she commanded. "Safety checks complete." Warning: this weapon has never been tested at full power. Unpredictable effects possible. So-Min nodded grimly. Everything about this war was unpredictable. The Caltharians expected another normal battle with weapons and shields. They weren't prepared for humans who thought outside the normal rules of physics. Above Earth, the 4 human ships waited in formation. The TSF Indomitable, Liberator, Retribution, and Unity. 4 small vessels against the entire Caltharian Empire. Captain Hyun-Woo Kim opened a communication channel to all 4 ships. "This is it," he told his crews. "Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few hours. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every enslaved species in the galaxy." On his sensors, space began to ripple. The Caltharian fleet was coming. The final battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin. The space around Earth erupted with light as 1,000 Caltharian ships appeared at once. Their crystal hulls reflected the light of Sol, creating a deadly rainbow that stretched across the solar system. Emperor Zalthek stood on the bridge of his personal flagship, the Eternal Dominion II. This ship was 3 times larger than any vessel ever built, with weapons that could crack planets apart. He had come personally to watch the destruction of the insolent humans. "Look at them," the Emperor said to Admiral Vextar. 4 tiny ships against the might of the entire Empire. They will learn the price of defying us." But Captain Hyun-Woo Kim wasn't afraid as he watched the massive alien fleet through the view screen of the TSF Indomitable. He had a plan that the Emperor could never expect. "All ships, implement formation. Delta 7, he ordered over the communication system. The 4 human ships spread out across the solar system. To the Caltharians, it looked like they were running away. In reality, they were getting into position. "Dr. Park," Hyun-Woo called to the science station, "is the dimensional shockwave ready?" "Ready, Captain. But remember, we only get 1 shot at this." On the planet Nexus Prime, Nexara and her fellow Nexari workers had been preparing for this moment. When the signal came from the humans, they knew what to do. "Now!" Nexara shouted. Across the crystal mines, the Nexari workers activated hidden explosive devices they had been building for months. The mines that provided power crystals for Caltharian ships began collapsing one after another. At the same time, on Vorthon 7, the gray-skinned Vorthon engineers made their move. They had built every Caltharian ship for the past century. They knew exactly where the weak points were. Engineer Vorthak typed commands into his control console. Around him, other Vorthons did the same. Together, they sent a virus into the computer systems of every Caltharian ship they had ever built. The virus was simple but deadly. It made the ship's navigation systems think they were upside down. Emperor Zalthek was preparing to give the order to attack when alarms started screaming on his bridge. "Your Majesty," his engineering officer called out, "we're receiving reports from across the Empire. The crystal mines are being destroyed. Our ship factories are shutting down." "What?" The Emperor's 4 red eyes blazed with fury. "How is this possible?" "It appears the subject species are in revolt, Your Majesty. They're sabotaging everything they can reach." Before the Emperor could respond, more alarms sounded. Half the ships in his fleet suddenly started spinning wildly out of control. The Vorthon virus was spreading through their computer systems like a plague. "Get those ships back in formation," the Emperor roared. But it was too late. The carefully organized Caltharian battle fleet was falling apart. Ships crashed into each other as their navigation systems failed. Others fired their weapons at random, hitting their own allies. Captain Hyunwoo Kim watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. "Now, Dr. Park, fire the dimensional shockwave." Dr. So-min Park's fingers moved over her controls. The weapon she had built used the same technology that let human ships fold space, but instead of moving through dimensions, it created a wave that rippled through all dimensions at once. The shockwave erupted from all 4 human ships simultaneously. It was invisible to normal sensors, but it hit the Caltherian fleet like a tsunami hitting a beach. The crystal ships weren't just damaged. Their entire understanding of how space worked was turned upside down. Ships that were designed to move in straight lines suddenly found themselves moving in circles. Weapons that fired energy beams discovered their shots were curving back and hitting their own ships. "What's happening?" Emperor Zalthek screamed as his flagship spun like a top. "The humans have somehow changed the laws of physics around us," his science officer reported. "Space itself is behaving differently." Commander Min Seo-yoon, leading the diplomatic mission from her ship, opened communication channels to every species in the Caltherian Empire. "This is your moment," she broadcast. "The Caltherian fleet is helpless. Fight for your freedom now." Across 12 star systems, the response was immediate. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up against their masters. The Quilaxians used their natural ability to phase through solid matter to sabotage Caltherian installations from the inside. The Mordians, with their incredible strength, tore apart crystal technology with their bare hands. On the prison world of Kethvar, Captain Dae Jung-han of the TSF Unity led a rescue mission. His ship had folded space to appear directly inside, the planet's atmosphere bypassing all the orbital defenses. "This is the Terran Defense Force," he announced to the prisoners below. "We're here to get you out." The prisoners were members of dozens of different species. Some had been in Caltherian prisons for their entire lives. They looked up at the human ship with wonder and hope. Back in Earth space, the battle was turning into a rout. The Caltherian ships were so confused by the dimensional shockwave that they couldn't tell which direction was up. Many of them were firing at their own vessels by mistake. Emperor Zalthek tried desperately to regain control of his fleet. "All ships fall back to minimum safe distance." But Captain Yoonji Choi on the TSF Liberator had other plans. Her ship folded space and appeared directly next to the Emperor's flagship. "Emperor Zalthek," she said over the communication system, "this is Captain Choi of the Terran Defense Force. You have exactly 10 minutes to surrender, or we will destroy every ship in your fleet." The Emperor looked around his bridge. Half his officers were unconscious from the spinning. The other half were frantically trying to regain control of their systems. His mighty fleet was scattered across the solar system like broken toys. "You cannot defeat the Caltherian Empire," he raged. "We have ruled this galaxy for 3 centuries. "Your empire is already defeated." Captain Hyunwoo Kim's voice came through the communication system. "Your slaves are free. Your fleets are destroyed. Your crystal mines are collapsing. What empire do you have left?" As if to prove his point, reports started coming in from across Caltherian space. The Nexari had taken control of 3 star systems. The Vorthans had declared independence and were building ships for the rebellion. Even some Caltherian colonies were switching sides. Dr. So-min Park monitored the situation from her science station. "Captain, I'm reading massive power buildups from some of the alien ships. I think they're trying to self-destruct rather than surrender." "Stop them," Hyunwoo ordered. The 4 human ships moved through the scattered Caltherian fleet like healers tending to the wounded. Wherever a ship tried to destroy itself, the humans used their dimensional technology to disable the self-destruct systems and save the crew. Even the enemy deserved to live. Emperor Zalthek watched his empire crumble in real time. Every minute brought news of another system declaring independence. Species that had served the empire for generations were now demanding freedom. "Your Majesty," Admiral Vextar said quietly, "perhaps it's time to consider terms of surrender." The Emperor turned his 4 red eyes on his admiral. "Never. The Caltherian Empire does not surrender." But even as he spoke, he knew it was over. The humans had done something the Empire thought was impossible. They had shown the galaxy that the Caltherians could be defeated. And once that knowledge spread, nothing would ever be the same again. On Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jin Ho Lee coordinated the rescue efforts from the command center. Thousands of freed slaves were being brought to human space. Ships from the rebelling species were arriving to help with humanitarian aid. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 47 Caltherian ships. They want to defect to our side." Jinho nodded. The cascade effect was complete. The Caltherian Empire wasn't just militarily defeated. It was philosophically broken. The idea that had held it together for 3 centuries, that the Caltherians were superior to all other species, had been shattered forever. The age of the Empire was ending. The age of freedom was about to begin. 3 months after the battle at Earth, Captain Hyun-woo Kim stood on the observation deck of the newly built TSF Harmony. Around him, the most extraordinary sight in galactic history was taking place. Ships from 47 different species floated together in space, working side by side to build something that had never existed before. A truly free galactic community. But the work wasn't finished yet. Emperor Zalthek had retreated to the ancient fortress world of Kalthmor with the last loyal ships of his crumbling empire. He refused all offers of surrender, and had sworn to fight until every Caltherian was dead rather than accept defeat. "Captain," Dr. Somin Park said as she approached, "we've detected massive energy readings from the fortress world. The Emperor isn't planning to surrender. He's planning to destroy everything." Hyun-woo studied the readings on his tablet. The energy signature was unlike anything they had seen before. What kind of weapon could produce this much power? "Not a weapon," Somin replied grimly. "A dimensional bomb. If he triggers it, it will tear a hole in space itself. The explosion could destroy entire star systems." The news sent shockwaves through the Alliance of Free Species. Commander Min Seo-yoon called an emergency meeting aboard the Harmony. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the main conference room. Nex Ara, now speaking for the freed Nexari, stood up first. "The Emperor has lost his mind. He would rather destroy the galaxy than admit he was wrong." Engineer Vorthak, representing the Vorthans, nodded in agreement. "Our people built many of the systems on that fortress. The dimensional bomb is real, and if it explodes, it will take half the galaxy with it." Captain Yoonji Choi, who had been studying the tactical situation, activated a holographic display. "The fortress is surrounded by an energy field that our ships can't penetrate. We can't get close enough to stop the bomb with conventional weapons." "Then we don't use conventional weapons," Hyun-woo said. "Dr. Park, could we use the dimensional folding technology to reach the Emperor directly?" Somin thought for a moment. "It's possible, but incredibly dangerous. The dimensional bomb is destabilizing space around the fortress. Our folding technology might not work properly. We could end up scattered across multiple dimensions." "What other choice do we have?" asked Captain Dae Jung-han from his ship. "If we do nothing, billions of beings will die." The room fell silent as everyone considered the impossible choice. Attack the fortress and risk everything, or let the Emperor destroy half the galaxy out of spite. "I'll go," Hyun-woo said finally. "Just me. One person can fold space more precisely than a whole ship." "Captain, that's suicide," Yoonji protested. "Even if you reach the fortress, how will you stop a dimensional bomb?" Dr. Somin Park was already working at her computer. "Actually, there might be a way. The bomb uses the same basic principles as our folding technology, just in reverse. Instead of moving through space, it tears space apart. But if someone could reach the control center and reverse the process, the explosion would become implosion," Hyun-woo finished. "The bomb would destroy itself instead of the galaxy. But whoever does it would have to stay behind to make sure it works," Somin said quietly. Hyun-woo nodded. He had known from the beginning that this war would require sacrifices. He just hadn't expected to be the one making the final sacrifice. "No," said a new voice. "There's another way." Everyone turned to see Admiral Vextar entering the conference room. The former Caltherian commander looked tired and old. His proud uniform was replaced by simple civilian clothes. "Admiral," Min Seo asked, "I thought you were in prison." "I was. But your people let me out when I volunteered to help," Vextar replied. "I know the Emperor better than anyone. He's not just trying to destroy the galaxy. He's trying to prove that the Caltherian Empire was right to conquer everyone." "What do you mean?" Vexter activated another display, showing the philosophical principles that had guided the Empire for 3 centuries. The Empire was built on the idea that only the strongest deserve to rule. That cooperation makes you weak. That different species can never truly work together. He gestured around the room at the representatives of dozens of species working side by side. You've already proven him wrong. But he can't accept it. In his mind, if he can't rule the galaxy, then no one should have it. So how do we stop him? Hyunwoo asked. Not by fighting him, Vextar said. By showing him that there's a better way. Dr. Somin Park looked confused. You want to talk to him? While he's preparing to blow up half the galaxy? Not just talk, show him. The Emperor has never seen species truly cooperating before. He's never seen what you've built here. If we could bring him to this ship, let him see what real unity looks like. He'd never agree to come here, Yoonji pointed out. He would if I asked him, Vextar said quietly. He still thinks I'm loyal to the Empire. He still believes I serve him. The plan was risky beyond measure. Admiral Vextar would return to the fortress and convince the Emperor to come to the human ship for a final meeting. Once there, they would try to show him that his Empire's way of thinking was wrong. If it failed, the Emperor would return to his fortress and detonate the dimensional bomb. 2 days later, Emperor Zalthek's personal ship approached the TSF Harmony under a flag of truce. The massive Caltherian ruler had agreed to the meeting, but only because Admiral Vextar had convinced him it was a chance to demand the surrender of all the rebel species. When the Emperor stepped aboard the human ship, his 4 red eyes widened in surprise. The corridors were filled with beings from dozens of different species, all working together. Nexari engineers worked alongside human technicians. Fourth-hand programmers collaborated with Culaxian mathematicians. What is this place? The Emperor asked. This is what the galaxy could become, Captain Hyunwoo Kim replied. Not an empire ruled by one species, but a community where everyone contributes their unique abilities. They took the Emperor to the main engineering section, where Dr. Somin Park was working with scientists from 12 different species to solve problems that none of them could handle alone. Impossible, the Emperor muttered. These species are too different. They can't work together efficiently. Watch, Somin said. She presented a complex mathematical problem to the mixed group of scientists. The human mathematicians provided the theoretical framework. The Nexari used their intuitive understanding of energy patterns. The Vorthans contributed their engineering precision. Together, they solved in minutes what would have taken any single species hours. This is just one example, Hyunwoo explained. Every species has something unique to offer. The Empire wasted all that potential by forcing everyone to think the same way. Emperor Zalthek walked through the ship for hours, seeing cooperation and friendship everywhere he looked. Species that the Empire had kept as enemies were now working as partners. Former slaves were teaching their skills to former masters. Finally, they brought him to the observation deck, where he could see the hundreds of ships from different species working together to build space stations and rescue centers. For 3 centuries, the Emperor said slowly, I believed that only the strong should rule. That cooperation was weakness. That unity was impossible. He was quiet for a long time, watching a Caltherian ship working alongside a human vessel to repair a damaged station. I was wrong, he whispered. Captain Hyunwoo Kim stepped forward. It's not too late to change. Your people don't have to be conquerors. They could be partners. Emperor Zalthek turned his 4 red eyes toward Hyunwoo. The dimensional bomb. I ordered it because I thought if the Empire couldn't rule, then chaos would follow. But this isn't chaos, is it? No, Your Majesty. This is order, real order, built on choice instead of force. The Emperor made his decision. He opened his communication device and sent a signal to the fortress world. Admiral Kekstar, this is the Emperor. Shut down the dimensional bomb immediately. Stand down all weapons. The war is over. 6 months later, Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of a new kind of ship. The TSF Explorer was built using technology from 20 different species, each contributing their best innovations. It was faster than any Caltherian ship, tougher than any human vessel, and more beautiful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Beside him stood his crew, Dr. So-Min Park as Chief Science Officer, Commander Min Seo-yoon as Diplomat, Captain Yoonji Choi as Tactical Advisor, and at the navigation station sat former Admiral Vextar, now serving as their guide to the unexplored regions beyond the former empire. Course laid in, Captain, Vextar reported. The unknown sectors await. Hyun-woo looked out at the stars ahead of them. Behind them lay a galaxy transformed. The Caltherian Empire was gone, replaced by the Galactic Cooperation Council. Dozens of species worked together to explore, learn, and grow. The age of conquest was over. The age of discovery had begun. Take us out, Hyun-woo ordered. Let's see what wonders are waiting for us out there. As the explorer jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward unknown stars and new adventures, one thought echoed through the galaxy. When different species worked together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. The Terran Warship had appeared, and an empire had fallen apart, but from its ashes something far greater had been born.